When it's really cold and horrible out, my spouse and I like to walk the shopping mall near where we live, and I noticed the other day that swimsuits are already out, and the darker colors of winter clothing have given way to the pastels and soft fabrics of this year's spring collections. It's a funny thing to see because it's an attempt to draw this very firm line between winter and summer. The season of cold and darkness is over, and warm weather and sunshine is here by decree of first quarter profit needs. It's reductionist in such a way that it's patently ridiculous. One of the threads of connection that has been nourishing me for many years now is ancestral veneration, and that can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes it's lighting candles or meditating in an attempt to hear what my ancestors have to say, but it's also a perspective as much as anything else. I feel like it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the way we live now, the concerns we wrestle with, and the challenges that make up our days are the way it has always been. Every change of seasons, these calendar markers we set based on astronomical timings, include micro-seasons and subtle shifts down here on planet Earth. Trying to shift gears suddenly from winter to high spring ignores one of the most challenging micro-seasons, and it's the one we happen to be in right now. For our human ancestors who lived in regions like this one and in latitudes further north, this time of year was hard. It was the lean times, the starving times. The winter stores of food would have been almost completely used up. The spring planting cycle had begun, but none of those crops would be ready to harvest for months yet. Some livestock bear young now. We still associate lambs with this time of year, but none of those animals would have been ready for culling for months. This time of year was one of tightening belts and of going without and of being cold as well as hungry. The winter stores of fuel would have been just as depleted as the winter stores of food. Our ancestors were rationing carefully, even as the days grew longer. And whether we realize it or not, these subtle shifts in season remain connected to us. As Carl was quoting, the season manifests through you. Being human means being part of a legacy of experience that leaves marks in our very DNA. It's part of why so many of us get restless and discontent at this part of the year. We know there's something we're supposed to be doing, but we're not exactly sure what. We're twitchy, but we're not sure why. Even with enough food and warmth, something feels off. Add a challenging seasonal shift to the more sinister and frightening shifts happening on a national level, and it is a recipe for a very rough early spring. One of the most beautiful aspects of pagan religious practice is that it invites us to go deeper into these natural cycles, even when they are uncomfortable. To lean in and do as much as we can to embody being part of this world rather than separate from it. My own answer to the somewhat uncomfortable shift towards springtime is to thoroughly feel this season as one of transition. A beloved friend has this great saying, if you hold the practice, it will hold you. It's the idea that spiritual practice isn't some sort of vending machine where you put in time and get a cookie. It's a relationship with a pattern or a structure that then offers its own support or insight over time. It's not transactional. It is the living practice of faith and presence. My daily spiritual practice includes a stop outside. For me, it is a visit to 3 places on the land that I belong to. And given what the weather in Maryland is like in February and March, it is not always a long stop. The point is less about having a deep revelatory experience with the silver maple tree in my yard and more about observation and plugging myself into the very real, natural processes happening where I live, if only for a moment. So I know spring is coming. I can tell because the sound of the birdsong has changed dramatically over the last few weeks. I recognize the difference because I know the sound of winter where I live. I know spring is coming because the skunk cabbage down by the stream is putting out new leaves. They're one of the first plants in our region to do so. And I notice that difference because I see the spot where the skunk cabbage grows every day. And I know the weather is still cold and variable because I spend a few minutes outside just being present to it. But I can also smell and feel the subtle shift, the hint of moisture in the breeze that promises the coming spring. I can feel it the same way my ancestors have felt it for thousands of years, and being connected to these small changes as a practice means feeling more stable and more connected and present with the turning toward the light. I hold the practice and it holds me. Unitarian Universalism honors both humanism and the interdependent web of existence of which we are all part, and to me, choosing to be a human present with the land and species we share this web of existence with is a good answer to both of those ideas. Intentionally pausing outside connects me to this specific time and place, but it also connects me to our human heritage of direct relationship with the local ecosystem. As we open to this changing season, my first suggestion for deepening connection is to choose just one place to visit almost every day where your only goal is to notice. This doesn't have to be a romantic or bucolic location. It can be a tree that you walk past, or the front step of your house, or the balcony of your apartment. Simply pause. Give yourself 5 breaths to start with. Simply notice what is. Along with feeling rooted to the past and its pattern of human land connectedness, it's good to reach toward the future as well. One uplifting activity that I tend to engage in during this transition season is a visit to a botanical garden with a conservatory. There are several within driving distance of Frederick: Rawlings Conservatory in Baltimore, Brookside Gardens in Wheaton, and the United States Botanic Garden in DC are a few options. In these conservatories, we get the wonderful experience of summer, even if we had to walk through piles of snow on our way to the door. I have found that for me, this full sensory immersion into the feeling of the growing season is a useful touchstone for staying connected to the spring to come. It's a lived reminder that darkness passes, that the green and growing world will awaken, and that soon enough we will be surrounded by green leaves and flowering branches. No matter how many times I've engaged in the practice of going to a conservatory during the cold season, I'm always freshly amazed at what a few hours of warmth and light and that amazing grow smell that plants have will do for my quality of mind. Turning points in the seasonal calendar are also good opportunities to reset, to notice where we've drifted off course or dropped some of the threads we would rather be weaving. We can see this pattern of evaluation and reset in the idea of spring cleaning. I would argue that although spring cleaning is good for the spaces we live in, it's more important for our minds than for anything else. A spring clearing to match the spring cleaning. Every winter, the land that we belong to changes in subtle ways. The freezing and thawing of the ice cycle introduces new fissures to the earth. Heavy snowfall breaks branches, and high winds can down entire trees. And here we are, coming out of a winter so heavy with worry. The storms that came this year took many forms, and our internal landscape may have shifted in response. Just as connecting with the natural cycles where we are involves observation first, doing some personal spring clearing begins by simply becoming present. So if you're open to it, I invite you to settle back in your chair. Go ahead and get comfortable. Get some wiggles out. You can soften your gaze or close your eyes, whatever feels comfortable. Bring one hand to your heart and one to your belly. And just take a few deep breaths. Feel the movement of your breath beneath your hands, the rise and fall of your chest and belly. Maybe you can even feel your heartbeat along with your breath cycle. Now check in with yourself and just notice how you're feeling without judgment or reward. Simply notice. What sensations are present? What emotions are surfacing for you? Staying connected to how you're feeling, now imagine springtime for a moment. The warm sunlight on your skin, the birdsong, the flowers opening and the grass becoming green once more. Notice what, if anything, shifted. How do you feel now? Whenever you're ready, you're welcome to release that visualization and gently open your eyes. Depending on what you noticed, maybe there are some areas you'd like to loosen, soften, or transform for spring. Inner clearing can be a choice to focus more on the emotions we wish to cultivate. Determination, hope, that which is fed really does increase. Inner clearing can be a choice to become more present to the cycle of nature, to focus on how it does feel to stand in the sunlight and listen to the birdsong, to figure out what we can let go of in order to make more space for being present. Inner clearing can be a conscious assessment of mental patterns and an investment in changing them. During this season of transformation, is it also time to reach out for help, to invest in a summer harvest of greater peace of mind by cultivating our inner landscape? One of the touchstones I hold, no matter how bad it gets, is the natural cycle. No matter what I am doing, no matter what is happening in the world of human politics and concerns, the cycle of darkness to light, of cold to warmth, will happen. Orienting ourselves to that natural cycle gives us a source of stability when the human world gets chaotic. No matter what is happening, daffodils will open. No matter what is happening, dogwoods will flower. No matter what is happening, robins will build nests and they will lay sky blue eggs in them. Our ancestors survived the lean times year after year after year, knowing that no matter what, life and warmth were coming. They just had to hold fast and be smart about their resources. They just had to stay present and find the little causes for hope, the subtle reminders that this too shall pass. And so the threads come together. The pattern of human history and the cycles of nature stretch back as far as we can imagine intertwined. An endless story of emergence from darkness into light, from challenge into ease, from lean times into abundance, and from ignorance into knowledge. When we hold the practice of connection to the natural cycle, it roots us to the resilience of those who came before us and the reminder of all they survived, whether the challenge was winter or a disaster of human making. No matter what happens, the days will grow longer. No matter what happens, spring is coming, and it is up to us to decide what tools we bring to this transition. Presence, clearing, intention, and connection are all possible. Consider what you are rooting into this spring, what your inner landscape needs, and how best to embody the wisdom of our ancestors. The land is ready to begin the cycle of growth again, and as we once more step into sunlight, what are you going to leave in the shadow? And how best can you hold the practice so that it can hold